Happy New Year to everybody. And welcome to Satsang. Let's just take a moment. We'll have a longer meditation on the banks of Ganga after this, but just take a moment and allow yourself to actually arrive here, to this moment of your life. This place, this breath, and just allow yourself to notice the very fullness of this very moment. The moment lacks nothing. If your awareness is there, the moment is full. And allow yourself to anchor yourself in that awareness of fullness, in that awareness of the infinite spaciousness. There is a shortage of nothing, a lack of nothing. Right here, right now. There is only fullness. Notice how the deeper you drop, the fuller and more spacious it becomes. On each exhalation, allow yourself to just drop deeper and deeper. And on the inhalation, as you inhale, allow yourself to fill with that breath, noticing again how very full, how very expansive this moment is. Allow that prana to just flow in and into every cell of your being. And as you exhale, you drop deeper and deeper into the very fullness that exists in you and as you. Slowly and gently bring the palms of your hands together in Namaste at chest level. And just gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands over your closed eyes. And slowly lower your hands and open your eyes. So we'll begin as always with a question from our global family joining online. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. There's a microphone right there, so don't be shy. Just come up to the mic, share your name, share where you're from, and share your question. But beginning with one that's come in advance. I am ardently walking on my spiritual journey, and I take steps forward. But as soon as the daily routine and the grind of work and personal life set in, I lose focus. How do I keep myself motivated? This is that place where you realize that spirituality is not separate from your life. It's how a lot of us feel. Oh, this is my spiritual life. I meditate, I pray, I do yoga, I chant japa, I go to my house of worship. That's my spiritual life. And then, this is all the rest of the stuff I gotta do. The kids and the spouse and the in-laws and the work and the groceries and oh my God. And this is the separate stuff. And we feel that those two are separate. In our spiritual life, we are focused. And when we enter into the workplace, the family, the rest of things, we lose that focus. We get stuck, we get caught up. In Sanskrit, we speak about this as Maya. Not that it's bad, not that it's wrong, it's actually very important in many ways, but just that it pulls us out of that absolute truth that we experience spiritually. The way to deal with this is one of my all-time favorite mantras, which is a mantra that Bhagavan Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita. Simple, simple mantra. Kind of a mantra for life, which says, Mamnu smard yudhyacha. It's not even a full mantra, it's like a mool teaching, you can say, a foundational teaching. Mamnu smard yudhyacha. Remember me and fight the war. Now, fight the war, that only makes sense when you realize that the Bhagavad Gita is spoken on a battlefield, in Kurukshetra to a warrior. So Arjun's duty, his dharma, was to quite literally fight a war. Our duty and dharma is different than that and the same on more subtle levels. But it's a beautiful teaching. Mamnu Smard means remember me. Yudhyacha, fight the war. And it's a linking of these two aspects of our life. They're not separate. Everything we do, whatever we do, must be done remembering God. Mamnu Smard, remember me. Which also on the deepest level means remember you. Remember you. Remember that you are divine. You're not separate from God. Remember you. Somebody today, as I was on the banks of Ganga, coming back, stopped and with tear-filled eyes asked me, how do we have faith in that divine, and what does that mean? And we were talking about it, and I was saying, having faith in the divine means having faith in you. She said, I don't understand. And I said, well, you've been created out of divinity. We don't believe that God is just like a cosmic artist, kind of making sculptures and then tossing them down from the clouds onto the earth, and like here's a dog sculpture, and here's a bird sculpture, and a tree sculpture, and a boy sculpture, and a girl sculpture. We don't believe that we've been created like that by just an artist who's creating us out of something else and then sending us forth into the world. We believe that we've been created of the divine. So Mamnu Smard means remember me. It's being spoken by Krishna. So it means remember God. But it also means remember yourself. Who you are. Remember who you are. Both as soul, spirit, consciousness, love, truth, divinity. But also who you are in this human package. How many times do we find ourselves saying something to someone like, oh my God, that wasn't me. I'm so sorry, that wasn't me. Well, it was your mouth, it was your body, it was your tongue, it was your hands, it was your legs. It's not like, a ghost came in and possessed you. But what we mean really is, it's not the I that I identify as my highest self. And what it means is in that moment, I forgot. I forgot not only my divine self, but I even forgot kind of the highest level of my human self. I acted in ways that are not in alignment, either with my divinity or with my sacred humanity. So Mamnu Smard, remember me, means every minute, every moment, whatever you're doing. Remember God. Remember God. You're washing dishes, remember God. Perfect opportunity to get in all of that extra japa. Remember God. Remember the divine. Can you experience the divine in a sink full of sudsy warm water? Because God is everywhere. Remember me. Whatever you're doing, there is nothing that is not able to be done God-like and in remembrance of God. And Yudhyacha, fight the war. Means do your duty. Means live your life. Your chores, your work, your dharma, your marriage, your kids, your parents, whatever it may be, do it. Fully. It's not you remember God and therefore you don't show up for work, or you leave the family, or you forget to grocery shop, or you let all of the dishes pile up in the sink for 2 weeks. Because a lot of times people think, when I become very spiritual, I'm too spiritual for those things. Like you do the dishes because, hey, I'm on a spiritual path. No. Whatever you're doing, remember God and do your duty. Everything in life becomes able to be done with that spiritual focus. So if you find that you're losing your spiritual focus, what it means is that the way that you think about your work, or the way that you think about your family, or the way that you think about your chores or your errands or your to-do list, the way you think about it is wrong. You are seeing it in the illusion of separateness from your spiritual practice. It is not. It is a critical part of your spiritual practice. My favorite true story of this is a story that now goes back many years, but it's evergreen. We were in South Africa many years ago, staying with a beautiful family of devotees who live in a city. It's not really a suburb because it's hundreds of miles away, but a city that's hundreds of miles away out of Johannesburg. And we had gotten there. We had gotten there by private plane from Joburg. We had flown in and stayed with the family. There was a beautiful program. And then we had a flight to catch out of Johannesburg in the morning. And they were going to drive us to the airport. Beautiful devotees. Very, very long puja every day. Sat in the temple for hours and hours. And we had a morning flight, and I had calculated, it was in the days before GPS, or Google Maps or anything like that. But I had calculated based on how far it was and that it was a good highway, that it was going to take us 3.5 hours to get there by car. So at about 4 hours before we need to be at the airport, they're sitting in the temple doing their puja, and I don't say anything yet, but I just notice, and I'm like, all right, they must be finishing up soon. So I come back, and another 15 minutes goes by, and they're deeply engrossed. And I, again, don't say anything, but I kind of just peek in, and they're still engrossed. And another 15 minutes goes by. It's now like the time we need to be sitting in the car to reach the airport on time, and they're still in puja. Like, bags haven't even been loaded into the car yet, nothing. So I peek in and I whisper, we have to go. And they say, yes, we're just coming, just a few minutes. Okay. So another 15 minutes goes by, they're still in puja. Again, I peek in, I say, yeah, don't worry, we're just finishing. So by the time we leave, the only way to get us to the airport was for him to drive, at some crazy breakneck, not only illegal, but like seriously dangerous high speeds. And we're in the car driving, and, I mentioned something about the fact that he's going, 50 kilometers an hour over the speed limit. And, isn't he afraid he's going to get pulled over, or is this really safe? And he's like, oh, yeah, it was a fancy car, I can't remember what, but some super fancy, expensive car. And he's like, oh, but, you barely feel it in this car because, it's such a good car. And don't worry, I'll just, pay off the police officer if he stops me. And he says, yeah, I realized we should have left earlier, but really didn't want to, skimp on the puja because, we're so devoted to God. And Pujya Swamiji says, and what sort of blessings do you think you're going to get if you kill your guru on the way to the airport? And I had certainly been thinking about it. I just didn't quite have the courage to say it, but he said it. And it's such, it's a very old story, but it's such a beautiful story because it really shows how we forget the sacredness of just things we got to do, like get our guru to the airport on time without, threatening his life. And surely God would forgive you for doing a little bit less puja so that you could drive safely on the highway. Even if your guru wasn't in the car. I mean, because everybody else and all the other cars are life. And if your car spins out of control and you hit someone or something happens to you, like, you're sacred. But we've got these ways where we box up. This is spiritual. Oh, I was doing my puja. Driving to the airport is work. Puja is spiritual practice. And really what we need to do is break that line and realize that sometimes driving to the airport is puja. And that everything that we do can and should be done in the way that it is an offering to the divine. And that's the way to stay focused. If you see it as work, you see it as that which must be done, you're going to lose focus. You see it as your war that you are fighting, remembering God, you'll stay focused. Great. Other questions? Any questions? Yes, of course. Please come.
Jai Gange. My name is Ajit. I live in the US, in Virginia, and for starters, I'm feeling extremely lucky, very blessed that on New Year's Eve I'm here on the banks of Ganga and in your presence, in the presence of Pujya Swamiji. And I'm hoping that Ganga Maya will call me again soon, in not so distant future, for a few more days here. My question is about building tolerance. If I may, a couple of anecdotes that happened today. I just find, like, with every passing year, as I'm growing older, I'm going to turn 50 next year, that my tolerance level for certain situations and certain individuals seem to be going in the wrong direction. And a couple of anecdotes from today that happened here that made me think about maybe I should make some changes. First one happened in yoga class this morning, and it was a beautiful class. Gangaji was there, and the gentleman behind the camera, I think, was one of the teachers.
I'm sorry?
The gentleman behind the camera, I just saw him here. He was one of the teachers, I think, today. It was a beautiful class, but, you know, some folks showed up late. The class began at 6:30. Folks were trickling in at 7:30, 7:45. Not only were they late, I'm sorry if some of them were here today, they were making a ruckus. There was a lot of noise, dragging the mats around, and I was sitting there seething, shaking my head, couldn't do anything about it. And then there was a class here in this very hall at 2 o'clock. I think it was Induji who was giving a beautiful talk about Patanjali Yoga Sutras. That door behind us must have opened and closed like 25 times. At one time when we were supposed to be in meditation, I actually got up and closed the door and bolted it shut. It only made matters worse because there were some people that I apparently infuriated because they were banging on the door and shaking it up, and somebody had to go open it up, and then this door started shaking up and so on and so forth. But here's what I observed at the end of all of that. Both the instructor in the morning, Gangaji, as well as the instructor at the 2 o'clock class, I think it was Induji, if I'm not mistaken, they were unperturbed by all of this. They went about their thing, absolutely in blissful state. The only person who lost out was me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because I was sitting there seething, ready to wring some necks and throw them out of the yoga class with their yoga mats.
Yes.
I didn't do it, obviously, but
that's the ninth limb of yoga.
I think it had some good effect on me. But then I was like, okay, how do I change that? Now, not doing anything about it also doesn't seem right, because I feel like somebody has to give some people a piece of their mind. It doesn't have to be me all the time, right? Because my wife just feels like, well, she's here, I won't say anything. But yeah, I'm sorry for the
No, I get it. I get it.
For the long-winded thing,
Okay.
but yeah, but building tolerance.
Two-part answer. I get it. There's an internal and there's an external. Now, in many situations, will you just turn off your mic, actually, if you don't mind? It causes an echo for some reason. Done, thank you. Somehow, if we've got more than one mic on at a time, it echoes. On an external level, sometimes things actually can be and should be fixed. And everybody else's simple acceptance of the fact, oh, this is just how things are, is not actually ideal. I think back, for example, to when we went on pilgrimage to Tibet, to Mansarovar, Mount Kailash, back in 1998. Long story, I won't go into the long piece of it, but as we were entering Mansarovar area, there was a pilgrimage of people who were leaving, because of course so many go, and they recognized Pujya Swamiji through the car windows, stopped the cars, came and did pranam. And they mentioned that someone in their group had actually passed away from altitude sickness. Lots and lots of people get quite sick, lots of people die. It's a sacred, beautiful, amazing yatra, but it's also very treacherous on a physical level. So Pujya Swamiji, as we pull into Mansarovar, his mind starts working, and he says, we should do something. Young person died of altitude sickness, like something should be done. He started talking to people, whose land is this? It's owned by China. He says something should be done. At that time, there were no indoor facilities at all, nothing. You camped in tents, in the cold, in the wind, in the high altitude. And he said something must be done. And everybody said, nothing can be done. Nahi ho payega Maharaji, chhodiyega man se. They said, just forget it, let it go. It is impossible. It's China. How are you going to get land from China? This is how it is. You just do the meditation, do the arati, do the spiritual practice, and forget it. He said, no. He said, if the idea has come to me that something must be done, it means something can be done. Meanwhile, fast forward a few years, we end up with permission from the Chinese government to build not just one, but we ended up building 3 ashrams, a medical center. I mention that because the answer is not always just accept how things are on an external level. There are times where the kind of collective agreement with the status quo is not an ideal situation. You know, you see this in, slavery, in gender inequality. Oh, women can't do that. Oh, people of this caste can't do that. I mean, these are situations that must be changed. The goal is not that collectively we just learn to accept them. The key is 2 things. The key is, number 1, inner peace and calmness, even in the midst of an external situation that you know needs to be changed. And number 2 is figuring out which external situations actually need to be changed. Because just because it annoys you doesn't mean it actually needs to be changed. Sometimes the only change that needs to happen is internal. Sometimes it's external, but sometimes it's only internal. In almost every silent meditation, long retreat program, inevitably, certainly everyone that I've ever been in and everyone that I've ever talked to, anyone who has been in, inevitably there's always someone with allergies or a cough or a stomach that growls really loudly when you're meditating before breakfast, or something that is causing a regular source of noise. And what I've realized is, I think in a way, it's the universe's way of making sure that we learn how to meditate in the midst of that which seems so annoying that you can't possibly meditate in. Because you get to a point where it's like, as you did already this morning, essentially, if somebody opens that door even one more time, I'm going to kill them. And you get into it, like if that person sneezes again, like just stuff it up for God's sakes, you know? Like you find yourself having these thoughts, but I think that it's actually part of the cleansing process. Because you go through it, and either you run away and you say, forget it, the guy with the allergies ruined my meditation retreat, or you realize, this guy's going to sneeze for the next 3 months. Either I run away, or I figure out how to meditate while he's sneezing. And if you can do that, that's the point. So your work is going to be figuring out which are things where you really need to make a change, and which are things where the only change you need to make is in how you see it. And in both cases, even if you've got to make an outer change, internally you should not be disturbed. Think about Pujya Swamiji in the ashrams. Like, he knew something needed to be done. Okay. He was going to make it happen. But that didn't mean that he wasn't able to meditate, or he wasn't able to do his yoga, or he wasn't able to be calm. He knew at the right moment, the right pathway is going to arise. And then we'll do it. But make sure that no matter how many times somebody is opening or closing a door, or sneezing or coughing or being annoying or whatever, that it doesn't steal your peace. Because all that does is it sets you up to have a life in which your peace is able to be stolen by way too many things. And the number of places you can go, people you can be around, just starts to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And ultimately it should expand.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I've just learned that India is the spiritual capital of the world, also because it tests your tolerance. Thank you so much.
Of course. Come. Yes, you. Oh. You know what? Just 1 second. We have just a little rule in satsang, kids first. Sure. Yeah. Can you do me a favor, actually?
Yes.
Can you come here? Then everybody can see you. Mike Denavia. Ooh, we have something to show. Here. You can take the microphone.
And I've also bought you some 2 gifts.
Oh.
As a New Year gift.
Oh, you're so sweet. I thought you were going to do a magic show.
First of all, my painting.
Wow. Did you do that?
Yes.
How beautiful.
And this shivling and this is the Ganga gel, and beside it there was no paper. So like for my imagination, down it's a river of Gangaji.
It is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. We have Shiva, we have Om, we have Ganga, we have the Himalayas, we have the beautiful sky, and we have so much love. Thank you.
Would you mind, like I bought you a pen as a gift? Could you write your sign on it?
Sure. How about on a different page so that we don't ruin this picture?
Okay.
Can I do it for you after satsang?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And I made, and it's homemade. It's homemade. It's made up of clay.
Oh, wow. Flowers. Beautiful flowers. New Year's flowers. Thank you. Thank you so much. Did you have a question also, or did you just come bearing gifts?
I just wanted to give you the gifts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I'll sign this for you after satsang, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, good. Reuse the bag. Yes, you. Yes. Just 1 second. She'll come first, and then, yeah.
My name is Aderly. I am from Chile, South America.
Wonderful.
And my question is, what do you recommend to a person who feels anxious or is having a hard time during the holiday season?
What do you recommend for a person who is feeling, keep the mic on for just a sec, feeling, what is it that you said that you're feeling? Anxious. Okay, thank you. Okay. A person who's feeling anxious. First of all, to recognize that you are in very, very large company. Anxiety is impacting so many people these days, even young children. These days, even you ask kids, how are you, and they say, I'm stressed. The number of kids who are being medicated, I mean, don't get me started, it's a different issue, but it shows what's happening in our world and in our minds. So first of all, recognize that you are absolutely surrounded by, not just here in this room, but here in the world, lots and lots of people who are also suffering from anxiety. There's a few ways to deal with it. The first is in what we call gyan, wisdom, or introspection. Typically, anxiety arises because we think we're afraid that the way we want things to happen is not the way they're going to happen. So we're nervous about the future, maybe 10 minutes from now, maybe 10 years from now. Oh my God, I'm going to be late to work. Oh my God, something's going to happen, my parent is going to get sick and die 10 years from now. But it's almost always something in the future, even just a little bit in the future. And we're afraid that the way we want it to be isn't the way it's going to be. And it's very helpful to realize that, because what it makes us realize is that actually the solution to the anxiety is to loosen the grip that we have over our desires. Because if I can just loosen the grip a little bit around how I think things need to be, then I'm not nearly so anxious that they're not going to be like that. So we just loosen that grip that we have on, I want this, I need this, it has to happen like this is the only good way. If not this, then oh my God, that. We just loosen our grip and our attachment to our desires, and we just learn to say, and this, and this. Not what I expected, not how I would have done it if I were in charge, and yet here we are. And that's a very great practice for life, just the practice of learning to say, and this. Because if you know that you're going to be able to do that, then you won't be nearly as anxious beforehand. We're anxious because we think, oh my God, when things don't go the way that I want, essentially the sky is going to fall, I'm going to fall apart. I won't be able to handle it. But the truth is you can. And if you get yourself in practice of how you deal with situations that are not the way you would have liked them to be, by just saying, here we are. So it is. And you just notice. It'll not only make you feel much better in that moment, but it'll help you prevent more anxiety. The other way of working with anxiety is working with the breath and bringing the breath very low in the abdomen. There's a chakra, an energy center that's just about 2 inches below your belly button called the Swadhisthana chakra. And if you can bring the awareness of your breath here, what you will find is that you cannot simultaneously breathe from here and be anxious. It just doesn't work in the nervous system. When you're anxious, the breath comes up and the breath is here, it's here, or, the moment the breath is here, automatically the nervous system subsides. So it's a very quick way in. And lastly, practice of meditation. It's really the kind of cure-all for every game and dis-ease of the mind. Because what it does is it enables us to just watch the mind. So anxiety arises, but you don't get lost in it. You notice it. The arrival of anxiety. And you just notice it, like, a cool breeze. A raindrop. It's like that. Anxiety. And you just notice it. And when you notice it like that without jumping into it, it'll dissipate very quickly and go away. And of course, the meditation practice will keep it from coming back. Beautiful. Yes, of course.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, somebody here had his, yes, come. भैया ये दरवाजा बंद रखिएगा ना, किसी को अंदर आने मत दो.
Om Namah Shivaya. My name is Sunny Doshi. I live in Sydney. So my family and we all were here in Mumbai for a happy event. It was supposed to be my marriage, but then we broke up and it went away. And then few days later, my father passed away, which was very untimely at the age of 57, very healthy, fine. Yeah, he lived a healthy lifestyle, everything, but in matter of 5 minutes, he went to washroom, had a cardiac arrest, or he fell down, and in matter of 10 minutes, he lost his life in front of me. So in times like this, when we know the knowledge, we are spiritual, read good books, do good things, but in times like this, it's hard to implement. We know soul is immortal, body is temporary, but it's hard to implement it in daily life and get back to normal after such things happen so quickly and such hard grief falls upon us. So what can we do? The first fundamental teaching you said, remember me and fight the war. It helps, but how can we constantly remind ourselves of that and not get lost?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so sorry about your father. Losing a loved one at any age is very difficult, but especially when we lose them when they're so young that we really did not expect that we would lose them at that time. So I'm so sorry for that loss. When we hit these sorts of down points, sad points, pain times of our life, this is the time to really use that time to reach out to God. You're feeling lost anyway. There's nothing at that point that we're able to really hold on to that makes sense. The only thing, actually, is the divine. If not, you find yourself spiraling into a cycle of, it's not fair, hate the world, nothing makes sense, nothing matters, why bother this, why bother that? And actually holding on to your connection to the divine is the most important thing. In many cases, we get sent these tragic moments, I think, really to just make us stop and wake us up. Because we are so busy moving through our lives that we so infrequently really stop, connect with the divine deeply. Think about the purpose of life. Think about the meaning of life. Think about the preciousness of every minute, every moment. Right? I mean, just here in this room, you've just given everybody in this room a moment of re-remembering the preciousness of life. Because the moment that we hear about someone who has died, immediately we all remember, oh my God, like that could be me. Or that could be my mom or my dad. You know, you say 57, and so immediately our minds go, who do we know? Is it ourself? Is it a parent? Is it a loved one, a sister, a brother, a child? And immediately the minds go, oh my God, it could be them. It could be me. And it brings us immediately into a moment of deep gratitude, deep awareness, deep stillness. The minds stop wandering for a moment, and we're actually present. So I think that one of the reasons that we have these experiences in life is actually the universe's way of making us just stop and re-remember what's most important. Because, you know, you're young, you're successful, I would imagine you're normally very caught up in a career, a profession, and kind of, you know, moving forward with your life. And now I would imagine that you're much more introspective, much slower, definitely sadder, and that will go away with time. But the lessons, the life lessons about the preciousness, the impermanence. Because whenever something like that happens, whenever we lose a loved one, the other thing that always goes in our minds is what our last conversation was with them, how we were, and oh my God, if only I hadn't been in such a rush or so stressed, or that therefore I was rude, or I didn't have time, or I was mean, or I put him down, or whatever it was. And it makes us always commit that we're going to make sure we slow down. So use this time. The incredible pain will pass. Some pain will always be there. It's going to be now just a part of who you are. You will grow around the pain. You will adjust around the pain. But the deep kind of incapacitating pain will go away. You'll get busy again. But this will hopefully always be something that reminds you. It'll hopefully always be one of those turning points that you can remember of, oh yeah, since my dad died, I have been so much more aware of this, or I have been so much more conscious of that, or I've always remembered to do this. Let it be something. You know, our parents are those who teach us. And let even in passing, his unexpected, tragic passing be something. that teaches you something very, very powerful and that you hold forever. And before you leave from here, we can have a very beautiful puja here for him. You're staying here at the ashram, yeah?
Yes.
Great. Come into the reception. We'll help you organize a beautiful Shanti puja for his soul.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
of course, of course.
Just one more question. What happens in the moment of death? He couldn't speak to me, or like he was just gasping for breath. So what
Well,
happens? What?
Two things happen. One happens to the body, the other happens to the soul. The body, of course, does everything it can to stay alive. It's the nature of the body. It's going to gasp. It's going to do whatever it can to try to hold on to its life, and then ultimately, the life goes. But the soul is there. It's just the soul is no longer associated with that body. But his soul is still there. Just his body has ceased to have that prana in it that makes it alive. But the soul that, I don't like to say lived in it, because the soul doesn't actually live in the body, but that's, traveling with this body, is still there. Yeah, of
Thank you.
course, of course, of course. So, all right, we'll take it quickly. Yes, yeah, we'll take it quickly. And then I want to make sure everyone has time to have dinner before our evening meditation on the Ganga. Yeah. Yes. ये माइक ऑन कर दो भैया. On है.
Hello.
Yes, now you're on. Thank you.
My name is Yash and I'm from Indore, Madhya Pradesh. I have a question. My question is very simple, short and sweet, that this is my psyche. This is my soul. Somewhere in the middle, there's a bluff master, my ego. So I've been in the habit. I've been in a wrong habit from past 10 years, and I wanted to leave it. But my ego wants that I had to leave that on a good note. But I don't know. I'm trying from past 2 years to leave this habit, but this doesn't work out.
You are in exactly the right place,
Yeah.
at exactly the right time.
Yeah, ma'am, just one single thing. I have a ego issue. I had a lot of ego. So, and
Welcome to the party.
Slowly I've realized from past 10 years that I've become a servant of my psyche. So what to do? I just wanted to destroy my ego.
Yes. So, first of all, don't think about destroying it. It's a part of you. It's a part of you. It isn't the enemy. It's not the enemy. It's a part of you that thinks it's actually doing good by you. The ego was not created to be our enemy. The ego was created when we were young as a way of understanding ourselves, understanding the world, making sense of our place. The ego is not the enemy. What happens is, as you grow, the ego has a tendency to attachment, to expectation, to entitlement, to stories. It's the games the ego plays that create problems. But don't think about destroying, because then all you're doing is you're waging a war in your own mind. Instead, think about simply freeing yourself. Freeing yourself from the clutches of the ego. The ego will still be there, but it will no longer have control over you. There's a difference between having a roommate and being a slave.
Maybe.
Right? So the ego will always be there. At the moment, not only is it a very loud, powerful roommate, but it actually has you in the palm of its hands. It's literally pulling the strings and you are dancing like a puppet. what will happen over time is you will no longer be a puppet. You will have control. The ego will get less and less loud. It'll always be there. So never think that your house is going to be totally empty and you're going to, slaughter the ego. It'll always be there. But it'll stop causing problems for you. It'll just coexist, mostly quietly. Every once in a while it'll pipe up and then you'll remember, oh yeah, I've got this ego here with me. And it's a good reminder every once in a while also. Otherwise we start to, think too highly of ourselves. Otherwise, you just remember, oh yeah, I still have that ego, yes. What you need to do though is regain control. Let go of yourself as the puppet of the ego. And you're here on the banks of Ganga, it's New Year's Eve. In 45 minutes, we're going to have a beautiful ceremony on the banks of Ganga of letting go. Come, and when you come up to the fire, let go of the story that you tell yourself, which is, I am a slave to my ego. You are not. You are not. You may do the ego's bidding by choice, but you are not a slave. You do not have to be a slave. You have total veto power. You have total control. So I want you to give up the story that says, I am that guy's slave. Give up the power that that ego has over you. Give up the power that you give to it. The ego is only as strong as the rest of you makes him to be. The more you put him in charge, the more power he's got. Take the steering wheel of your life back in your hands. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. So I hope that you will all join us right after dinner on the banks of Ganga at 8:30. Those of you joining online live, we will be, I believe, live streaming that as well. So in your homes, you can also be celebrating this sacred New Year's Eve and letting go wherever you are in the world. And have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful New Year's Eve. Tomorrow morning, by the way, our morning fire ceremony, the morning yagna, will be on the banks of Ganga. And I believe that it is 9 a.m. instead of 8:30. Can one of our Seva people clarify that for me? Does somebody have a schedule? Is it 8:30 or is it 9 tomorrow? 9. Okay. So the morning yagna, instead of being here at 8:30, is on the banks of Ganga at 9 a.m. Everybody is welcome. Everybody is invited. So we hope that you'll join us for bringing in the new year on the banks of Ganga with the yagna as well. And a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. And a beautiful coming of the new year and a whole new way of being.